going, everyone? Tim here, TRD Adventures. Hope everyone's all well out there. As always, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. So, like I mentioned in the last video, it's been a little bit, but I've been plenty busy. We just dropped the SCX6 video. So now, how about, some updates from the bench on a few of the other projects I've been working on and a couple of the other new builds that I have acquired and added to the fleet. So, first up here, we have the Element Utron. And now, the Utron's been on here a couple times. We went at it from kind of almost a stockish form with, a few of the basic upgrades and changes like that. And then, we went after it a little bit more. Now, again, we're back at it again. Now, one thing I had in my mind on the Utron was possibly class 0 maybe, or, just kind of going with, more of a almost not super scale, but scale-esque build. So I had an extra Tundra hardbody here. So I was like, you know what? I think we can have a little project. So my goal was Tundra here. We have the IFS2, which is actually super awesome. I think a very vast improvement over the IFS1. So independent front suspension. And how about some Leaf rear suspension, which is scaled to like how the Tundra is. Independent front, Leafs in the rear. Now, I didn't go super scale as far as body. I wanted to, kind of have a little fun and everything like that. So I did some aggressive cutting in the body, but I just really wanted that IFS front and Leaf springs in the rear. I just something different, something a little fun. So that is what we did here. So I'm going to go ahead and snag the body off here real quick and show what all I did. So got the body off here so I can get into some detail on what all I did there. So, like I mentioned, wanted to go more scale and whatever, but knowing that I was going to be putting leaf springs on the rear here, if I went like super scale and went small tires and everything like that, for our local area does not favor super scale or small tire vehicles. So the most I could really do with them at all is just kind of trail, like just along an easy path. So I didn't want to make a truck like totally uncapable. I'm already adding leaf springs to the rear here, so I'm already going to hinder it some in some performance. So we just did some aggressive cutting. That way I can still have a bigger tire on there so I can still get over some obstacles and still enjoy it quite a bit there at our local area. So first up, body mounting. So that was one thing with the Tundra on there. Wanted a nice, solid, easy body mounting solution. So I picked up a body mount set from Shrink RC. And it came here with some sliders here that attach right to the Element with no modifications. And it has the bolt holes here so I can do the 4 bolts through the cab right to the slider. So the cab is nice and secure. And then back here it came with this 3D printed mount and this one here. So you can mount the bed nice and tight and secure to the body. So it has 2 bolts that come in from through the top of the bed and then 2 that come up underneath. So the bed's all nice and secure. Don't have to worry about it moving off. Don't have to worry about it rolling and falling and stuff like that. And Shrink RC also has a wide variety of body mounts, whether it's for the Tundra or the Hilux, like the Extra Cab or the 4Runner, and not just the Element platform, BS410, TRX4. They have several body mount solutions for a variety of chassis and bodies and vehicles. So if you are looking for like a hard body solution, definitely check out Shrink RC, and I will have them linked down below in the description if you're looking for some hard body mounting solutions. Putting all the body mounts and stuff in there, where the Utron stock battery mount is here in the rear, I had to move it because it interfered with the front rear body post. So I took an IERC battery tray and was able to mount it there on top of the slider. I think actually worked better. I was able to move that battery forward and get it lower than right back here. So since the battery is a big chunk of the build, got it down nice and low. So now for the big part, for the rear, for leaf springs. So obviously we pulled out the whole rear link set up there for the leaf springs there. So this isn't necessarily like a direct fit bolt on, so, or at least not with these axle housings. So I picked up the AR44 leaf spring mounts from Beef Tubes, as well as the Beef Tubes leaf spring kits. And they are made for AR44s. Now looking at the design of them and how AR44s are designed, the other Element housing, the original Element housing or like an SSD housing, I believe, it looks like they will fit much easier, but nothing that a little Dremel can't fix. So I did have to Dremel a little bit over here around the perch and cut out some of that support, but I was able to get the leaf springs on there, mounted all nice and secure and where they were supposed to be, so it looked really good. So from there, with the leaf springs on, I had the bed mounted, so then I was able to just kind of move the whole rear axle and leafs around to a point where I thought the wheelbase was about right, and then I was able to just put the front and rear shackles, find a good mounting spot, or drill an additional hole if needed, and get the rear axle pulled back, forward mounted, and everything like that. And the more I'm driving the leaf springs here, they are getting nice, they are getting softer. The Beef Tooth leaf spring pack is very strong, it is very heavy duty, it's a little stiff, but the more you drive it, the more it will break them in. And I do have some softer leaf springs here now as well, so I may swap those out here at some point, because obviously it is definitely, with leaf springs, it's definitely not a flexi boy. If you're looking for more articulation, stuff like that, you're not going to get it with leaf springs. And with addition to that, I did go ahead and remove the stock shock towers and all that other area. And then I took some shock keys and mounted them and screwed them to the Shrink RC body post mount, and just positioned the shocks and pulled the springs off, because at this point they're basically just there for looks. And that project's done. Honestly, very happy with the way it came out. Just kind of cool to have that leaf springs in the leaf spring rear, IFS front. I said definitely not super capable of anything. And obviously I did hinder its performance overall, pulling out the links and putting in leaf springs, but I think it's something cool and something different. And finally, a platform with a reliable IFS system there. Definitely something that I wanted to get knocked out, was a Tundra on there, IFS front, leaf spring rear. Just something that I've just kind of always wanted to do. Honestly, overall, really happy with the way this whole came out. This was one of my more, projects that I was really kind of into. Took me a couple days to get everything lined up. I worked on the body mounts, getting all that situated. Took a little bit with the leaf springs. Like I mentioned, I had possibly planned on doing a Class 0 with this, but then more driver was like, you know what, we're going to go a different direction with the Class 0. I just want to have some fun with this truck, so that's what we did. So on to the next one. So next up, snagged a very good local deal. Was a VS410 Phoenix build on the Rock Pirates Interceptor chassis. And I picked this up really good. Already knocked out a few modifications to it, but overall, going over the build here, just a cliffhanger, half cab up front there, then kind of down into the build. Of course, we do have the Interceptor chassis there, and a few of its pieces. We got the dual servo mount, stuff like that. Got an IERC rear bumper. I went ahead and added the IERC cliffhanger cab sliders, so they're the right width for just the running the cliffhanger cab only. And of course, VFD twin, because it is a Phoenix based build. And for the Phoenix axles, it already had the aluminum axle housings installed, as well as front brass. So overall, it was a smoking good deal. It did already have a Hobby Wing Fusion Pro in here, so we're still going to rock that. And it does have the Holmes SHV 650 4S servo, so very, very strong and capable servo in there. So I honestly, RTR wise, all I had to do was throw my receiver in here and it was ready to rock and roll. I already had a very good line of high quality parts and stuff like that. It did have some different wheels and tires on it, so I've swapped those out. We have some 1.9 SSD wagon wheels. These have just always been kind of one of my just favorite, like, old school looking wheels. The white wagon wheel just looks really, really good. And then for tires, we have the new Voodoo Kalar MTX that has just recently came out. Now, this is more promoted as like a extreme terrain tire. Overall, the tire is like a mix between the OG, just plain KLRs, and then like the KLR M's, and very aggressive and stuff like that. It seems we have some of that KLR M sidewall lug in there with like the more of the OG KLR tread pattern. And this is in the red compound that the OG KLRs were in. So very happy to see that these were in the red compound and not the trail spec compound. One thing, the trail spec compounds always just seemed weird, or almost like they were very bouncy. No matter what kind of foams you put in them, the tire itself just seemed bouncy. And speaking of foams, inside here we do have stuffed the 4.9 anti-foams from Three Brothers RC. That is just, the 4.9 anti-foam is just my preferred size for 4.75 tires, because then I can run them with no tuning rods or anything like that, and they just perform really good. Still have extremely amazing sidewall and soft enough for the forming and everything like that. And I did take these tires out and give them a run. I think the more I drive them, the better they're going to get. And honestly, first impression was honestly very impressed with the way they performed on the rocks. Being that the sidewalls are naturally stiffer and more ribbed. So I was kind of curious how the tire was going to conform on the rocks, if it was going to be, more of a true all-terrain tire, or if it does have some possibilities to be on the rock and even comp with it. And I think after time it will for sure. So just more driving and getting used to the tires. So overall, honestly, very happy with this build. It's just really good snag. So let me grab the next build. And the next build here, nothing crazy or anything like that. And the body may look very familiar because it does. It's been over here on the shelf for quite some time. But I snagged one of the Phoenix RTRs, just the straight axle version. Actually was the red cap here at one point. But going through a lot of my trucks and changing this stuff, you know, I was like, one thing I don't have is just kind of a true beat around RTR. Nothing super crazy, not going for super performance, but something I could just throw a big battery in and we can go out and trail and have a ton of fun and stuff like that. So I snagged one of the RTR Phoenix's. Local hobby store had one, so went in there and snagged it. And of course, you know, we did some modifications and stuff to it. Electronics wise, we do have the 3Brothers RC G13 Pro servo in there, and then motor and ESC. They said this was RTR, so it did come with some brush motor and ESC from Vanquish, but I swapped that out. I just threw in one of the 1800 kV Fusion SE motors, just simple, easy, threw it right in, didn't have to modify that VFD twin at all. That new SE Fusion is shorter, so it fit in there just fine. And I did leave the stock receiver in there, and I'm using the Vanquish controller that everything comes with, and honestly, this is really nice. This is just a very nice and comfortable controller, and it is 4-channel, so you can add a couple deals. I do have my light kit in here, and it's hooked up to channel 3, so I can turn the lights on and off. Overall, just a very comfortable remote and handles really, really good. Like I mentioned, body, it was the stock RTR red, but you know, I'd put in quite a bit of time and effort into the paint on my previous Phoenix body, so just a simple pull a couple body clips and was able to swap the body over, and plus I already had the light kit front and rear installed in here and everything, so we just left it as that. And then for wheels and tires here, I am using the Wild Peak tires that came with the RTR. I just put them on a set of 105s from Vanquish, and then for these rings here, these are some honeycomb 1.9 rings from 1/10 RC, and I just think they look really, really cool. You know, just something different. So overall, again, you know, just something simple, but really happy with it. It just gives me something else. Like, for example, like this week I'm going to Apex, so I'm not pulling out the comp rigs a whole lot, so this gives me something I can still go out and get some rock therapy in and have some good times and enjoy. So those 3 trucks have seen the biggest changes, minus the SCX6. Lately I've just done a few things here. If you caught the last live stream, we did see the new Deluxe Portal transmission that is in the Class 2, and also the Class 2 mullet for the kiddo. Got a few changes on it and ready to rock and roll, and did talk a little bit about it, but the next project that will be going on, and we'll see a video on it here as soon as my chassis kit and everything gets here, but we will be working on a Class 0 here with this LC70 body. Said it is coming up close to Crawlapalooza, and I do have one Class 1, 2, 3, and we do have an SCX6, but there's also Class 0 there, and that is one truck that I do not currently have, is a Class 0. So we're going to build one, and Class 0 is pretty sticky on the rules about modifications, no bobbing the bed and stuff like that, so I needed a fresh, clean truck to start with, and we snagged the LC70 because it's one of my favorite looking bodies, one of my favorite trucks. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I will link in the description below the parts I used for the Element Shrink RC, as well as the leaf springs that I used, and a few of the other, I'll link the RTR Phoenix and like the Interceptor chassis and stuff like that. But in the meantime, that's going to wrap this one up. And just nice little update from the bench, so possibly expect some more of these coming. Good little start for updates from the bench series. I kind of want to start. I just think these are going to work pretty easy, because there's certain things I do that, you know, are nice, and things that I want to do a video on, but it's not something that I can do a full video on. So it's nice because I can cram a few things into a video and, you know, still get the point across and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and until next time, everyone, have a great one. Crawl on.